Hey there, big dreamers. Welcome to episode 352 of the Dream Big podcast. I'm your host, Evakarpman, and today we have an incredibly inspiring guest, Luke McEndarfer, a Grammy award-winning conductor and the artistic director, president, and CEO of the National Children's Chorus. In this episode, we're going to dive into Luke's journey to becoming a world-renowned conductor and the incredible work he does with the National Children's Chorus, creating opportunities for talented young singers all across the country. You'll also hear about the unforgettable moment when Luke won a Grammy Award. And for those of you that don't know, a Grammy Award is a prestigious music award that recognizes outstanding achievements in the music industry. It's like winning an Olympic gold medal or a Nobel Prize in music. Luke will share his unforgettable moment of winning this award with us in this episode and so much more. Before we start, don't forget to hit that subscribe and follow button on the platform that you're listening to us on right now. And also check out our YouTube channel where we'll be sharing lots of exclusive content that you won't want to miss. So please join us as we get ready to dive into an inspiring conversation with Luke McEndarfer. Welcome to the Dream Big podcast, Luke. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Eva. Really glad to be here.
To start off the interview, I was wondering, as a child, did you always know that music was your calling? Or did you have any musical influences or role models growing up? How did you decide that this is what you wanted to do?
It's kind of an odd story. When I was 6 years old, I had a Christmas list where I had put down all the toys that I wanted, seeing all those amazing commercials right before the holidays. And my parents told me that a few days before Christmas, I had crossed out every single toy on the list, and I just put piano at the top. And they were really moved by that. So they got me this small piano, and I had my very first piano lesson in January, and I loved it. The rest was history. I just started playing music, hearing it off the radio, playing by ear, but also learning how to read music and taking formal piano lessons as well. So I started at 6 years old.
That's awesome. I know music always helped me when I was little, and just getting to where I am now, always listening to music or singing or playing music, it just really helps when you're growing up, and it gives you a sense of purpose. But I was wondering, how did you first get involved with the NCC? What inspired you to work with young musicians?
Well, that's a very good question. So even though my parents got me that piano, that was not consent for me to pursue a career in music. Let's be clear about that. So I had two choices. It was called, I could be a doctor, I could be a lawyer. That's it. Because I did not really like blood, I thought to myself, the lawyer is kind of the area I'm going to gravitate toward. And so I was a poli-sci major at UCLA. And I switched to being an English major, which actually worked out really well because my education in pursuing that major really refined my communication skills. And as a huge part of my job, communicating and writing is central, especially in sharing the mission of what we do as an organization. So after I had graduated with my bachelor's degree in English from UCLA, I had taken some private conducting lessons because I had all these side jobs. So I had side jobs, lots of them, from working at a golf course to being a bank teller. I just loved traveling the world, and my parents were like, yeah, great, you can do that, but we're not paying for it. So I did have to finance that on my own. What was really interesting was one of the jobs that I had in conducting, I just got really interested in the sound of music and hearing voices together. So I decided to take private lessons at the UCLA School of Music from one of the conductors, one of the doctoral students, in fact. That's what kind of got me more involved in the UCLA music department, so much so that someone came from the music department to hear a concert that I had decided to put on. So I raised all this money in a church that I was working on. This is one of my side jobs, remember? And I had hired an orchestra. It was very exciting. And so he saw me conduct the concert and he said, can you please submit a tape of this? He took that tape to the dean of the school. And a few months later, I was invited to do a master's degree at UCLA in conducting. And that's pretty significant because there's only, like 2 spots open nationally in those spots. Like colleges don't take 20 conducting students. It's like 2. To get invited based on the video was a huge honor. And it was also a huge sign to me from the universe that this was something that I should pursue. And when my parents knew that I had been accepted to pursue a master's degree in conducting, I think that I sort of got out of the requirement of having to do medicine or law. And so they sort of acquiesced, and the rest is history.
So can you tell us about some of the achievements that you have achieved through working with the NCC?
I mean, you can look at the external achievements, right? So you can look at the organizational growth. We started with 16 members in one city with 1 employee. Yes, I was the only employee when I was hired. And yes, I was expected to lead rehearsal from the piano. We didn't even have a pianist. So not even a second staff member. So we've grown considerably through the years. We have had some incredible performances, amazing collaborations with groups that we admire so greatly, such as the Los Angeles Master Chorale and Los Angeles Philharmonic, performed at venues such as the Kennedy Center, Carnegie Hall, and major concert houses all around the world through our international tours. Also last year, I'm sure you know, the National Children's Chorus won a Grammy Award for Best Choral Performance. So those are all just incredible organizational milestones. But if you were to ask me truly, what is the greatest accomplishment of our organization, I can tell you it's something a little bit less tangible than all of those things. I sometimes see, especially when students are about to graduate, or I see when they gain a new skill or when they gain confidence, or when I hear stories about how students were scared to even raise their hand in class, but then they just sang a solo in their school and now they're the school soloist where they sing for all of the events. And you actually get a strong sense that these students and their lives have been changed through the program. They believe in themselves in a whole new way. That accomplishment is greater than any external achievement that we could have gained. Those are the things that really, I think, keep our staff motivated. Those are the reasons, I think, why we are so invested in what we do.
Yeah, that's truly inspiring, honestly, how this dream has taken flight and just grown to create such incredible opportunities for young singers across the country. It's amazing. And again, congratulations. That is amazing, Grammy. Can you tell us a little bit about that moment when you heard the name announced as the winner? Were you prepared for it, or did it take you by surprise?
It's funny you should ask about that moment, because for sure, it's a moment I'll never forget the rest of my life. We did a project with the LA Philharmonic, Mahler's 8th Symphony, in collaboration with 3 other spectacular groups, the Los Angeles Children's Chorus, Pacific Chorale, and the Los Angeles Master Chorale, as well as the LA Phil and music and artistic director Gustavo Dudamel. Just being in that performance alone was just spectacular. Now, we knew that Deutsche Grammophon was recording it, but I didn't necessarily think anything of it. Later on, came to find out the nominees for Best Choral Performance were announced, and the album, as well as all of the conductors of the album, which included myself, the other 3 artistic directors, and Gustavo Dudamel, were all nominated for a Grammy on that project. The months went by. As you know, because of Omicron last year, the Grammys got moved to Las Vegas. And so we all went there, the choral conductors. We were sitting together and they announced the category. I'll never forget that moment. So of course, your heart is pounding, right?
Yeah.
And they announced the album as the winner. It literally was an out-of-body experience, indescribable. And just walking up toward the podium. And artistic director of the LA Master Chorale, Grant Gershon, was the spokesperson for our group and delivered a beautiful speech. But just all the memories and just all the entire journey just of what we've done so far flashing through my mind within a matter of seconds, and just your whole body tingling, because it was truly unbelievable. So much gratitude, extremely humbling on a level that it's indescribable. Surely like one of the most epic days for all of us. I think every single organization involved, we were excited to get the award, but I think it made it so much more special that we got it together, because I think all 4 groups that I had mentioned have done such amazing work in this field over a long period of time. And it was so nice to see all of our groups recognized simultaneously.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I can only imagine how thrilling and incredible that must have felt. That is such a huge achievement. Hearing about, your whole career and your like Grammy winning moment, that's truly inspiring. And from an outsider's perspective, a lot of people consider you to be an incredible success. I'm curious personally, how do you personally define success? Do you feel that like you've achieved it, or is there more that you hope to accomplish?
I first think that the answer to that question is different for everyone, for every child, for every adult. And I think it's based on a number of different factors going on in your life. For myself, I identify 4 major areas. First, there's health, right? What are you going to do? And this is for all of my students. I tell them, make sure you're getting adequate sleep. Make sure your diet is good. If you are not healthy, what are you going to do? Like without your health, there isn't anything that you can really do. Also, your personal life in terms of the quality of your relationships with your family and your friends. This is also why I love music and why I love what the National Children's Chorus does. Like, we're a huge team. Like, we bring people together, we create community. Human relationships are so important in terms of our sense of well-being, our sense of balance. The other category, of course, is personal achievement. Yes, of course, everyone wants to achieve within their field, no matter what their field is. So there's that. And then there's also a sense of spirituality, which is different for everyone. Like, everyone, I think, connects to the world and the universe on a different level, not necessarily religious. And what I love about music, too, is I think it's a universal language. It really brings us to a higher place. I think that's why it's so powerful. I think that all 4 areas are really nourished by music and really nourished by participation in an ensemble, in a project together. It builds your skills. It builds your sense of community. It connects you to other people. And, it brings you to a higher level. And also, I'm sure you've read about all of the scientific studies that continue to come out. Music is actually good for you for your health.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like your anxiety. It's good for mental health. Young students these days are under so much pressure to achieve success, quote unquote, but success to them is often defined as these external goals. They have to get straight A's. They have to get into this high school. They have to get into this college. These are all external things. And so I really feel that when they get to come to the NCC, they're allowed to be nourished in those other areas that are really important. Like, I think when you're having a successful day or when you're feeling success, and I know it as well. And when I look back on those days, I realize those are the days where I feel I was most balanced in all of those areas. It's impossible for any of us to be balanced 100% of the time, right? So I think that sometimes we're imbalanced, but I think the key to that, and I mentioned this to my students, is your awareness. When you are aware that there is an imbalance, that actually is the first step to directing yourself back to being in a balanced state. That's what I think success is. I think success is when you can combine all of those together to feel, wow, this is a great day. I am just so grateful to be alive, and I'm so happy to feel so supported by these various elements of my life that I need as a human being.
That is amazing. And you're right. Music really does help just calm people down, especially when they're stressed or have anxiety about like a test coming up. or just really anything, it really brings you to a state of mind that's just so calming, and it helps you reach that success. So I have a couple more questions. Who is your number one inspiration in what you do? What keeps you like motivated to keep on going with the NCC?
You know, I have to be honest that I admire so many people. I can't pinpoint one person, but I can name many people, from amazing authors, Rhonda Byrne, Simon Sinek, Michael Bernard Beckwith, to business leaders, I mean, within our industry, Deborah Borda, Chad Smith, people who have a vision and just get things done, no excuses. I really just admire people who can handle everything that it takes. It's a lot. You know, we were just talking about that balance of all of those areas of life. As you progress and as things become more complicated, it sometimes becomes more complex to keep all those things in balance. There are just so many people who do a great job of that. I admire those people whenever I see them, even if they're not a world famous author. I take notice and I get to know them better, and I try to figure out tips as well as some of the recommendations for how they're able to hold it together and to lead a happy life.
I totally understand when there's so much that goes into making a person who they are. There's a bunch of different people who really create that, and it's a whole different range of people. I know for me, a lot of people expect me to say my number one inspiration is another podcaster or professional speaker. But honestly, for me, it ranges from like different teachers or people that I've met in my life that I think are just so inspirational. And I've learned from them, and they create parts of me that I am today. So I totally understand.
I think that sometimes we have mentors who know us. Yeah. Like that they're working directly with us. I can speak for myself. I have a lot of mentors because I'm studying them and looking at their lives, and I'm reading about them and reading their books. I have a lot of mentors who've never met me yet. So I think it's amazing to keep your eye out for people who really display excellence, commitment, and integrity. In all different disciplines. You can learn so much from them. You can be mentored by people that you know. You can be mentored by people that live thousands of miles away, especially in this day and age where we have access to every book and
have
podcast.
No idea who you are, but that's
and
fine.
Have no idea who you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always say yet because you never know. You might meet them.
Exactly. Yeah. Or better yet, they might meet you. It's their chance to meet you.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I know that you're very busy, but do you have any time for like hobbies or interests outside of music? If so, like what do you like to do in your free time?
I do, and I think it's really important, and I encourage this for our students as well, because I feel our students are so focused and they are so astute in trying to accomplish everything that they want. It's time you need to unplug. You really do. And to find what your hobbies are. Like, I love exploring the world. I like being out in the world. I love traveling. I love exploring. I love nature. Just even something simple like a walk on the beach. It is so extremely inspiring. It's so good just to clear your mind, to hike. And nature really is much more powerful than people, I think, give it credit for. We're oftentimes in buildings or in rooms, always typing and getting things done. It's a miracle, like when you're out there.
Yeah, I totally agree. Another question I was going to ask you is, if you go back in time and talk to your 9-year-old self, what would be the best advice that you would give yourself?
When I was 9 years old, I remember specifically realizing, wow, like I'm in 4th grade. I have to be serious. Like I have to get good grades. This is no joke. That was back then. I mean, just imagine what the pressure children are under now. Yeah. The advice that I would give that 9-year-old child is, relax. Like everything's going to be fine. Just take it one step at a time. And I think that we are given the impression in this world, especially in our American culture, because we're a culture of doers, like you got to get it done. And we think we have to do it. We have to do so many things and you just have to get it all done. And sometimes people feel they have to do it all on their own. And I think that as you evolve, you realize that it's a much wiser approach as you learn to show up and allow. And that doesn't mean that you don't do the work. You do the work, but you don't feel that you have to like force and make things happen. You show up, you do the work, and you just allow it to happen. And you'd be surprised, like, the magic just flows. It does. You do not need to force it to happen. It's there. And actually, that takes a lot of anxiety away when you can really know that and believe that.
That is so empowering. And it honestly, it is true. If you just let things sort of just go how they're supposed to be, everything will end up working out. So I know you have already made many of your dreams a reality, but if you look at yourself today, what is your big dream for the future? What do you hope to do?
I think it's just in expanding what our mission is. Every performance incrementally increases the vibrational integrity of this earth and everybody in it. And every single time that's done, even if it's on an incremental level, it helps. So when we say that music is making the world a better place or has the potential to do that, it's a very real thing. It's not just poetic or optimistic sounding. I really believe it to be true. And I see it to be true because you can see the changes that occur in people, like when they've really, really had an amazing musical experience. You can see they're transformed. And that, of course, has a butterfly effect, you know. So in the future, we're just continuing to expand the mission of our organization. That does not mean we're going to suddenly go from 8 cities to like 20. Like, no, we're staying in our 8 cities. We do have initiatives. We do have new projects. We have new collaborations in the works all around the world. Like, there's so much more to do. There's so much more that can be accomplished. Continuing to serve that mission and to make sure that all of our employees are empowered to make that mission come true. That's really my job and my number one goal. That's my dream for the future, is that we continue this, and that this goes far beyond me or my time, that this is a legacy that's carried on by every child whose lives we touch through our program.
For my last question, if you had a superpower, but it was only useful once a year, what would it be?
I think that in our world, especially now, especially post-pandemic, whether we all want to admit it or not, and as much pressure as all of us feel to constantly be happy and optimistic and smiling all the time, it was a traumatic experience for everyone in the world. And I know that even right now, even though that we're starting to hopefully move past it, people are still dealing with that. People still have mental anxiety. People still have stress about it. If I had a superpower and I could use it once a year, it would be to remove any of that stress, any of that anxiety from every human being on earth, to cleanse every human being of their pain, because I think we've all had to deal with that, and it's not easy. I think having it is valuable because it's important. It helps us grow in overcoming the various things that we have to deal with. But at the same time, if I just had a superpower and could snap my fingers and say, okay, how about this? No more anxiety. Here we go. That would be it, because I actually feel that no matter how fabulous anyone's life looks on Instagram, we all, to a certain extent, feel the same way inside and are going through the same things inside. We really have that commonality as humans, and I know it's hard to deal with sometimes. If I could take that away for a moment for people and just let them be free, that would be my superpower. That's what I would do.
Amazing. Sounds like fun, a whole day or a whole time when everybody could be just completely happy.
Even for a day, right? Like if we could, like,
just a day, yeah. imagine all the problems that everybody could solve that day.
I know, right? Exactly.
Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Luke. Where can our audience find out more about you and the incredible National Children's Chorus?
Well, the National Children's Chorus is easy to find online at nationalchildrenschorus.com, as well as any students who are wanting to find out more about our program or to apply for the program. It's right on the homepage. We are also on Facebook and Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. Just type in Luke McEndarfer. I love posting behind-the-scenes moments at the National Children's Chorus because usually with our organization, you see us on stage. I like to show the behind the scenes. I think one of my recent posts was my luggage getting rained on in Dallas. Yes, it happens. It's happened more than once. And so it's kind of cool just to see just the process and what it takes to really run the kind of organization that we do, and it's fun to share it. So that's where we can be found. We're happy also to answer any questions if anyone wants to inquire about the National Children's Chorus. Super easy, info@ncchorus.com. Our staff is very good at getting back to people quickly.
I love it. Well, thank you, Luke. This was incredible, and it was such an honor to have you on the podcast. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, well, thank you, Eva, and have a great rest of your day.
Wow, what an amazing interview with Luke. Thank you so much, Luke, for sharing your inspiring story and all the incredible work you're doing with the National Children's Chorus. We hope that our listeners are as inspired as we are. Before we wrap up, we want to remind you all to join our YouTube channel, so please find the link in the description. You can also find other links that we mentioned in this episode in our show notes. Please go to dreambigpodcast.com/352 or simply click the link in the description. Again, that's dreambigpodcast.com/352. Thank you all so much for tuning in to episode 352 of the Dream Big podcast. We appreciate your support so much, and we cannot wait to bring you even more amazing interviews with inspiring guests like Luke McEndarfer. This was your host, Eva Karpman. Until next time, keep dreaming big.